What's up, YouTube, Facebook? Jay, Trucker 717.
He was Lil Snoop, I was Meek Mill. Do you know how it feels?
Always a party in 717. I'm slow moving on y'all today.
Blowing kush clouds until his ghost and semi goes damn.
Alright, let's get to it. I got a lot to talk about.
Here we go.
What's up, YouTube, Facebook? This is Jay, Trucker 717, and there's always a party in 717. Today I'm going to guys talk about lease purchase, because there's been quite a few videos put out of lease purchase, and a lot of the videos are from YouTube guys that I know, and they're great guys. I don't want you to say anything negative about them. They're good guys, but different perspective. So I'm going to give you a different perspective of how I see it on the lease purchase program. Just a second. Alrighty. So basically, again, there was a video put out on Schneider National lease purchase versus KLLM lease purchase. Okay, the title of my video is going to be KLLM, Schneider National, LANDSTAR, MERCER lease purchase. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the different lanes of trucking. There are different lanes of trucking. Okay, you have your reefer lane, you have your dry van lane, you have a tanker lane, flatbed lane, and I would actually break off flatbed and do heavy haul as well, because that's kind of a different type of flatbed. So, and Kevin Hart did a video, he's a comedian, everybody knows, but he did his comedy show, and one of the things he says, stay in your own lane. He was talking about how he can't hang out with sports athletes because they have a lot more money than he did as a comedian when he was starting out, and he said, stay in your own lane, know where you are, and I would almost put that out to different trucking. Okay, first of all, comparing KLLM to Schneider National, and let me say I used to work at Schneider National, now I work at KLM, so I've worked kind of at both companies, so I kind of got an idea of how things work at both companies. But I still have friends at Schneider National, so a lot of my friends would say, Jordan, don't you badmouth us. And I'm not gonna do it because I didn't leave Schneider on bad terms. I dislike them or anything like that. Just we parted ways. Okay, but Schneider National is a good company. They have a good lease purchase program. One of the things I will say about Schneider National is that Schneider National is a huge company, and they know how to move freight better than anybody I know. They are far better at it than most average companies, and that's what they do. They move freight. You are not gonna sit at Schneider National. They're gonna keep you rolling. That's one of the things they do. They're very good at moving freight. Even a lot of times I've been with other companies where I've done swaps. But Schneider National, when I worked there, and I haven't worked there in almost a year, so I'm sorry, things are buzzing. But I haven't worked there over a year, but still, there's some things I still remember about Schneider National. And if you are swapping, you're probably not going to see the driver that you're swapping with. They're going to have you drop their freight at a drop yard, and they're going to have that next driver pick up that freight. You're not going to sit there and wait on the driver and all this other stuff. Most of the time, you're going to drop it at your drop yard. and they got drop yards. I mean, I've been driving in the middle of nowhere, and there you go, little Schneider National. Schneider National, like I said. All right, but the video was put out, and they compared KLLM to Schneider National. Let me tell you this: KLLM runs reefer freight. Schneider National runs dry and tanker freight. Okay, so comparing them is like comparing apples and oranges. And I always tell people, especially in finance, when you're dealing with business, compare apples with apples, oranges with oranges. Okay, reefer freight pays a total different amount than dry and tanker freight. They're different lanes, okay, of trucking. Just like flatbed is a different lane. A heavy haul is a different lane. So kind of comparing the companies, you're not making a real good comparison, okay? Also, they wanted to, what I always put it to you, people like this, you have your company driver, you have your lease purchase, you have your owner operator, and then you have people who have full authority and they're just running their own freight. Okay, a company driver is going to be paid per mile. Lease purchase, you're going to be paid a little bit per mile or percentage based, depending on which lease purchase you come with. Owner operators are probably going to go with a company where they're going to get paid at least 70% of the freight or higher. If they have their own authority, they're going to probably get 100%. If they're working under someone's authority, that's almost like having your own authority, and you're going to probably get 90% of the freight. So those are kind of the stages that you go through with truck driving. And, I've heard people compare, Schneider National with LANDSTAR. Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? LANDSTAR and companies like LANDSTAR and MERCER are owner-operator corporations. They only deal with owner-operators. You own your truck, or you're financing your truck through a bank, and you're running freight for LANDSTAR and MERCER. Okay. Schneider National is not an owner-operated company. So comparing the two is like comparing, like I said, apples and oranges. They don't even run the same lanes, So I don't understand how people want to make those comparisons, okay? I wouldn't compare KLLM to LANDSTAR. Two different things. KLLM is an independent contractor corporation. They have 80% of their drivers are independent contractors, 20% are company drivers. Okay. Schneider National is a company driver corporation. And nobody wants to say it, but that's the honest truth. About 80% of their drivers are company drivers, and about 20% of those guys are owner-operators or independent contractors. So if you go to Schneider, understand it's geared for company drivers. And this is pretty funny. I wanted to buy my own truck right out of school. So I went into this Freight dealer and I met this older white gentleman. And he had been selling trucks for 40 years. And I go in and he's like, so how long you been driving? I said, I graduate from school next week. He kind of looked at me. He was like, he said, so you want to buy a truck? I said, yes. He says, I don't even want to go through the pains and stuff about being a company driver. I want to buy my own truck. Then he smiled at me. I know a lot of you guys have been driving for a while looking like, what? So he was like, first of all, let me give you some advice. He says, first of all, he says, no bank is going to finance a truck for you unless you've been driving for a year or 2 years. I says, why is that? He says, if I'm willing to pay for it, he says, first of all, he says, the trucking industry is a high turnover industry. A lot of these guys get out of school and they're all great about running on trucks until they get out there in the truck and realize you get to sleep in the truck, you're not going to get home as much as you would like to. And a lot of them leave the trucks on the side of the road. And banks can't take that type of risk. They finance $150,000 to $130,000 truck to you, and all of a sudden you leave it on the side of the road. They can't take that risk. So they want to know you're committed to the industry and they require at least a year, 2 years experience before they'll finance a truck for you. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so he knows what he's talking. He says, so I'm gonna give you some advice. He says, first of all, don't go with a company, and I can't say the name of the company. You know, I hate bad mouthing companies, but basically he said they're a fast company. If that clues you. But he said, don't go with that company. He says, because what they've been caught doing is, and they've been sued for it, because what they would do is they would lease a truck to a truck driver. And then about 3 to 6 months into that truck driver driving, they would stop giving them freight. And so they couldn't make their lease payments, and they would take their truck back and give it to somebody else. He says, so don't go with that company if you're going to try to get a truck. He says, second of all, try not to go with a company that is has company drivers. I says, why is that? He says, because they're not going to tell you, but the reality of the situation is, if you are a company and you have company drivers and you have freight that you have to give out, who do you think's going to get the best freight? You got an independent contractor and you got a company driver. They're making money off of their company drivers because they don't pay them that much. So who do you think's going to get the best freight? The company driver. They're not going to tell you you're not getting the best freight, but that's the reality of the situation. So that was one of the advice he gave me. And the other advice he gave me was, try not to buy a truck over 500,000 miles. He said, because you're going to have problems with it. I was like, okay, that's pretty good advice. So, you know, I wanted to say that when people want to start comparing companies like Schneider National to other companies, is that you can't, it's not a fair comparison. You might as well face the reality. Schneider National is a company operated corporation. They have mostly company drivers, and that's how they make their money. And they move lots of freight. Understand, if you go to Schneider National as an independent contractor, owner, operator, you're only getting the crumbs from Schneider National. They're going to give their best freight to the company drivers. You're going to get what's left over. Now, is that a big concern? No. Because Schneider's huge, okay? The crumbs from Schneider's freight, that's pretty big, okay? So as long as they keep you running, and you're running like you need to run with them, then there's no problem, okay? And that's kind of what I'm kind of putting out to these videos. If you're looking for lease purchase, do your homework. Don't ask somebody else to do your homework for you, okay? Do your own freaking homework. Don't send me a request saying, hey, which is the best company? Schneider, Prime, Western, you know, which is the best lease? No. Do your own freaking homework, all right? We can give you things that we've experienced as drivers, but it's up to you to do your own homework. It's up to you to know that at KLLM, they charge $15 a week to lease the trailers. At Schneider National, they don't charge anything. That's something you need to make the comparison is when you're doing a lease purchase, is you got to look at all of the numbers. Compare apples with apples, oranges with oranges. Okay? That's a pretty simple process, but that's how it is. You know, so you've got to do your homework, and it's what works best for you. You know, I get a kick out of these guys do these videos and talk about how, you know, great it is for them on their lease purchase program, and I've done it too. Okay, I know you guys, you do it too. But what works best for you? At the end of the day, when I talk to my guys who come into KLLM, I said, look, if KLLM doesn't work for you, find a different company. You know, what works best for you, okay? If Schneider National works for you, then do it. KLLM, on their lease purchase program, it's a full turn-in lease. And I know someone put out in the video, KLLM, if you're an over-the-road driver leasing with KLLM, you are not on forced dispatch. I don't know who came up with that. You are not on forced dispatch. You do have a dispatcher who dispatches you freight, but you don't have to accept it. You can decline any freight. You can decline it for any reason. You can say, hey, no, I'm not running that. You know, and you can state your reason, or you don't have to state your reason, but you don't have to take the freight. Okay, so understand that. Like I said, KLM is a full turn-in lease. You can turn your truck in at any time. Some of the things I don't like about Schneider National's lease purchase program is one, it's not a turn-in lease. They have what they call a 1 year where you can lease it for 1 year and see how it is, and I love that. That's a great idea because a lot of people get in the lease purchase don't know if that's really what they want. Okay, you know, because once you get in the leasing, you got to keep going. You can't stop. The minute that you stop, that lease payment don't stop. Those insurance payments don't stop. You got to keep rolling. So that 1 year to get into it to see if that's what you want to do, that's great for Schneider National. The only problem I would have is once you get done with that year, then you got to lock into a 4 or 3 or 5 year contract. And they call it Schneider Finance. Schneider ain't financing those trucks. KLLM and Schneider National goes out and writes a check, cash money. Okay, this is a $370 billion industry. Companies like KLM, Schneider, Western, all these big companies, they go out and write a cash check for that truck. That truck is paid for. This truck that I have right here belongs to KLLM. I am not. They call it leasing, but I'm renting the truck. It's still in their name. You go out to the DMV and look on the license plates, and you will not see Freddie Jordan anywhere. It's going to be KLLM. They own that truck until you get done with that lease contract. Then they give the truck to you. Okay. So while that whole time period, you're renting that truck. And the minute you stop paying those lease payments, they're going to give it right to somebody else the next week. So my question to Schneider and Schneider Finance is, what's the credit check for? You take the lease payment out of the settlement. What are you checking people's credit for? That's my question. The truck's paid for cash. You're taking the payment out of their freaking settlement. What are you checking the credit for? I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that one. I was like, what? A credit check for? Credit check for what? Okay. Again, I don't like the fact that you can't turn your truck in anytime. And then when you turn your truck in, say you get done with the year lease and you sign a contract, and 6 months after you sign a contract, you know, something happens to your wife and you can't drive trucks anymore. Now you owe Schneider Finance some money. For what? The next week that you stop paying that truck payment, somebody else is in the truck. So why do you owe them money? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like that. I don't like that about them. It's like they're playing games. Okay. Well, also I have a problem with Schneider Finance is that like I said, that whole you owe them money type deal. That is not. Okay. All right. And I've heard people say, oh, you know, at Schneider Finance we have choice boards. You know, we go on the board and we pick our freight. Come on, people. Okay. Understand that when you're picking freight from Schneider Choice Board, okay, it's not like picking freight at LANDSTAR or MERCER. Don't what's the term? Don't get it twisted. Okay? Because when that freight comes in and you got a freight that's 5,000 pounds and it's going 2,000 miles and you're getting, say, $4 per mile on that run, Schneider's going to grab their freight up. Okay? And the stuff that goes to the choice board, they call the Schneider Choice Board, is going to be Schneider's leftovers, okay? So it's not like working at LANDSTAR where the broker brings the freight in and you got owner-operators competing against that freight, you know? That's not the same thing. So stop comparing yourself to LANDSTAR. It's not the same, all right? Okay, let's get that straight. Okay. What else? Okay, and I said that MERCER and LANDSTAR are completely owner-operators. So if you really want if you really want to get in the game, either go with LANDSTAR or get your own story. Finance your own truck through some lease purchase program or through the bank or whatever you decide to do. Alright, I think I've talked about everything I need to talk about in the lease purchase program. Like I said, when you're looking for a lease purchase program, look for what fits you. That's the important part about lease purchase program. Look for what fits you. There were some things in the news I wanted to talk about in this video, and I'll see if I can get my thing wrapped back up. But pretty interesting articles. Okay. Let's talk about this article and let's see if it'll come up because it's a good article. Alright. USA Truck initiates a home time choice program for OTR drivers. I'm loving this, guys. I'm loving this. Alright. They're in this is Van Buren, Arkansas. USA Truck has empowered its company over-the-road driving team members with the ability to select when and where they take their home time off. I'm loving this, guys. This is great. Other companies need to catch on to this. Again, it goes on to say, Choose Your Home Time is a program geared towards providing USA Truck driving team members with an enhanced work-life balance and flexible scheduling, including weekly home time option. Okay, so basically with them, you can get home every week if you want to. You have a choice to choose that. Okay, and their driver managers already know that about this program, and if you make that decision to do it, they're going to get you home every week. I love this program, man. This is great. Every truck driving company needs to come up with this program. Okay, and basically it says, we continually evaluate feedback from our driving fleet as well as from prospective and former team members, and home time is a recurring topic, overlay says. And we as drivers know that's our number one thing when we're looking at how much home time are we going to get. We know we're not going to be home all the time, but how much home time are we going to get? That's the number one thing that we look at, and they're listening to this. And it says it gives them the option to take a 34-hour restart in anywhere in the United States. And that's kind of understandable. And companies need to work with people for that, you know? Because if you're in Chicago and you got family in Chicago and you want to take a 34-hour restart, why can't you take it? That makes no sense to me with truck driving companies. Look, dude, don't want a 34-hour restart. Well, we got this freight. I don't care about what you got to move. Okay? If the driver wants to take a break, let him take a break. I don't get it. I don't get it. All right, so again, that's kind of what it goes over. It says there's a bi-weekly home time. You can stay 3 weeks and go home for 3 days, or you can stay 4 weeks and go home for 4 days. If you go 10 weeks, you get 10 days. So basically, they come with the same program, 1 day per week. But what they're doing is they load up on the days. So say I drive for 3 weeks, you know, I only take 1 day off. I got 2 weeks in the bank. Okay, they do it that way. Say I drive for 8 weeks and only take 3 days off. Okay, I got 5 days in the bank, and I can use that at any time. That's a good program. I love this program by USA Trucks. Good job, USA Trucks. That is great. What else is there going on? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm already laughing. I haven't got to it. In California, what is going on in California? California, what is going on? It says 100 commercial truck drivers paid $5,000 to bribe the State Department motor vehicle employees for a legal California license. Whoa, that's a lot of money too. $5,000 to get that CDL. A lot of guys, Team RG does it, does videos about getting your CDL. I know Miss Diva Trucker 43 does. A lot of guys are pushing you guys to get your CDL. This is the reason why. Look, they're paying $5,000 just to get their CDL. Because people understand when you've got your CDL, I don't care what I do. If I quit trucking today, just the fact that I have a CDL, I always have a job. You always have a job. That CDL is important to you. And also, when you guys are out there traveling the road and you're trying to, get there fast, remember those speeding tickets. Protect your CDL. It is very valuable. If these guys are willing to pay $5,000 to get a CDL, basically a couple of the examiners at the DMV office went to jail because they basically were just giving people CDLs for money. It was a whole bribe thing. And I guess these guys couldn't pass the test, so they would just sneak $5,000 under the table, and they've automatically passed. And they're pissed about it because they said, hey, these guys can't drive. You can let them run around. All right. Okay. Again, that's basically all that's been in the news. There was a little article about how from June to May, the trucking industry dropped 0.3%. Nothing to worry about. Overall, we're 15% up this year, so we're doing pretty good in the trucking industry. Freight is still strong. This is Jay, Trucker 717. Peace. I'm out of here. I got freight to move.